It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today. Welcome back to Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill, and today we are going to loop back to our FAQ Q&A style type of podcast that we did, I don't know, a couple episodes ago, but we have a ton of questions. So we might just be sprinkling these episodes in here and there as we get tons of questions all the time in our DMs. We like to address them all at once if we can. So we have a couple of good topics. These are definitely still some of our most popular questions. And one of the first ones we're going to talk about is how to know if I'm ready to wean off of tracking and eat more intuitively. And I feel like eating at maintenance and like living life and food freedom and not thinking about tracking food all the time and sustainable weight loss is becoming more popular, which is so lovely to see that a lot of women are making that shift. But I have the conversation frequently that women can get results when they're tracking their food, but they're so afraid to stop tracking because they think they're going to lose it all. And typically that stems from a lot of things, but specifically on again, off again type of dieting history or just chronically dieting in general. So back to the question, how to know if I'm ready to wean off of tracking and eat more intuitively? Jess, you want to share? We'll kind of just banter back and forth.
I actually had a client who wrapped up with us recently who asked me this specific question because she left still in a place of tracking. Our ultimate goal would be we send all of our clients off eating intuitively and loving the skin that they're in and listening to their bodies and eating because what they're eating feels good, right? But if you are looking for like a hard answer on this, here was my answer to her. We can go through seasons of eating more intuitively, even if you have not reached a physique that you feel perfectly comfortable in all the time. When we do that, I always recommend it be at the top of a muscle building phase or at the back end of a reverse diet. So what can be one of the worst things is for you to be in a diet or super restricting and not wean yourself back up to normal calories again and then try to eat intuitively. If you're doing that at the depths of a diet, oftentimes it leads to this like extreme weight gain in the other direction, right? So what I often recommend is if you have been dieting, track yourself and adapt yourself back up to high calories. Figure out what that looks like for you. If you're in a muscle building phase, maybe you're at a slight surplus. If you just want to maintain and feel comfortable, figure out what feels good for you, right? As long as your inches are steady, hang there for a couple weeks. And then you can practice by taking a few days off of tracking. And every week you're still checking in with your measurements to see, okay, cool. Everything's kind of hanging steady, but I'm taking time away from tracking until eventually you wean off. We do this with a lot of our clients when they are at the peak of a muscle building phase, where we'll actually recommend, hey, have a couple unplanned dinners, or if you go out on date night with your husband, don't track it so we can practice this, right, while we have caloric flexibility. Now, our someday goal for everybody would be we go through these phases using tracking as a specific measurable tool to get you from point A to point B physique-wise. And once you're at a really happy, healthy place and you're like, wow, I'm healthy, I've ramped my calories back up, I'm able to eat well, and this is sustainable for me, then we practice intuitive eating for the rest of your lives. So like that's where Jill and I are personally. We do not track our foods most of the time, but now it's this tool in my back pocket. If I start to feel a little snug in my pants, maybe I track for 2 months to get back on track. Or maybe if I have a trip coming up and I'm like, I want to lean out a little bit, maybe I'm able to go into a deficit for 2 or 3 months and see great results because most of the time I'm living at this high calorie place and maintaining. So I guess that's always an it depends answer, but we want you guys to be able to get comfortable doing it and maintaining at a high calorie amount. And you're still eating a lot of nutrient dense foods. It's not like you have your diet foods and then you're not dieting foods. It's like healthy nutrient dense foods. We're just increasing the volume of them and the proportions of them so that we get more calories throughout the day and we have a little more flexibility for the fun foods too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And I think that, I talk about this a lot when I do consult calls with women that I wish there was like another term we could coin when it comes to intuitive eating, because I think where sometimes the lines get blurred is that women are like, well, I don't want to think about food. I want to eat intuitively, but then they still have this weight loss goal. And it's like, hold on, those are so far at opposite ends of the spectrum. Those cannot be executed at the same time, or you can try. It's just going to be difficult and you're going to feel frustrated. So I think that's one thing. And then the other thing too, kind of what you mentioned on, like, I will play with clients who are in this phase, you know, when they're at their goal, they're feeling good. They're like starting to think like, can I hack this on my own? And we'll do it a lot of different ways when we're transitioning or weaning off. It might be like, okay, let's not track dinners this week. Or it might be like, let's take one day off and then 2 days off. Or sometimes I'll have them first, like, let's take a couple days off tracking. And what I'll have you do is write it all down and then backtrack at the end of the night. And let's just like test yourself and see where you landed. And you might be like, oh my gosh, I'm super low on protein when I'm not actively tracking it. Right. So there's so many different ways to like wean yourself off. And I think too that you have to define like what maintenance and eating intuitive looks like for you. I have a client who left and she was like, is it okay to still track 1 or 2 days a week when I'm on my own? I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't it be? And she felt this pressure to like not track because everyone, that's kind of like the messaging of like, you don't have to. And she's like, but it really makes me feel good and I don't mind it. I'm like, then do it. That's great. Right. So as long as it's not creating like stress for you, or you don't feel super reliant on it and you feel like you do know what makes your body feel good. And that's also learning like cues, right? It's being super in tune with yourself and being super present when you're eating. And those are other things that so many people have to practice, because I know I'm still guilty of this, that a lot of my meals are eaten at my desk while I'm still actively typing. I'm literally walking on my walking pad sometimes eating, or I'm in my car driving while I'm eating, right? And we're so mindless about it that we don't realize our habits. We're not in tune with our hunger cues. We're not in tune with, am I stress eating? Am I emotional eating? Am I actually hungry in this moment? Right. So there's so much that goes into intuitive eating besides just I'm maintaining my weight without logging my food, right? You have to learn like your hunger cues and what does it feel like to feel 80% full, and knowing that you should not feel completely full and stuffed 24/7. Your intuition doesn't mean I have hunger, I have to eat, or I have this craving, I should eat it. It's like, no, craving is different than intuition. And you should feel a little bit of hunger. You're a human. That's normal.
Yeah. You mentioned something about having clients retroactively track. I think that's one great tool. I think in any case, we are using some sort of data and metrics to wean people off. So it's not just okay, we're tracking everything. Now we're tracking nothing. It's like maybe we're tracking serving sizes of protein using their hands for reference, serving sizes of fruits and veggies. Maybe every single week we're still doing measurements for 3 months. I have one woman who is intuitively eating now. We're probably like 3 or 4 months into just intuitively eating. She wanted to add a running goal. She wanted to run a race. So we started training and adding running and dialing back for lifting a little just for a short period. She started losing weight and she's at a very healthy weight and she wants to maintain her muscle mass. So the data told us, hey, let's go ahead and add another snack or serving, or can you increase a portion size every day? And let's see for a couple weeks how that impacts your weight. And it got her back up to her weight now with this higher activity level that we've adjusted to. So again, there's a lot of ways to do it, but we're still looking at some data points. And again, then when you get to a place where you're like, I don't care about my physique because I feel so good, I just want to maintain health, then who cares? Then I'm not checking my weight all the time because I'm happy in the body I'm in. I just want to get stronger in the gym. I want to feel mobile. I want to feel good. So I'm not personally collecting those data points until I'm at a place where I'm like, I feel a little uncomfortable, right? But at the beginning of this intuitive eating process, oftentimes we are collecting some sort of data, whether that is journaling, whether that is people writing down, how did I feel? Why did I eat during that time? Was I actually hungry? Was it because it was just in front of me at the office? Was it because of peer pressure? Like what, like kind of building that self-awareness through data, not through emotions first.
Yeah, for sure. And, when clients come to us initially too, like tracking can be a stressor initially, especially if you're new to it. So we always explain that there is a learning curve, and this is something that it's like having homework every night all of a sudden or every day, right? So it is something that is new and you have to adjust to. But usually clients are with us 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, whatever it is. And at that point, they've been tracking so long that they rely on it, right? They rely on the app, but most of them don't realize that they have more skill and more intuition than they realize at that point, just because they've been so reliant on that tool for so long. So usually it's like a healthy fear, right? Like they're like, am I good at this? And then when they test themselves, they're like, oh, okay. And I'll say too that, like, I use this line all the time, but nobody comes home from a stressful day of work and says, man, I really want chicken breast today. I'm like, oh, we usually go for like comfort foods and stuff, right? So that's where your intuition comes into play. And I know I have to be, for example, super intentional about eating carbs throughout the day, because I tend to just gravitate towards fatty or types of foods, right? Like more fats in my diet. So when I'm eating intuitively, I know that I need to eat larger portions of carbs, like rice in my meals. I know that I probably need to throw a banana or apple in, because I'm usually short on my carbs at the end of the day. And that's it, right? Like that's the beauty of tracking, is you see where your gaps are and you're filling them preemptively when you're tracking, but then you have to remember, okay, that was that thing I struggled with. So this is what I need to do. But typically that's protein for most people.
And like for me, I've realized that, okay, I tend to overeat. Like when I'm not tracking, or most of the time, if I'm just listening to my body, I eat a lot, I snack a lot. My calories are high.
Yeah.
So when I want to intuitively go into a deficit, I just super jack up the amount of vegetables that I eat. I change the way that my plate looks in proportion of a lot of proteins and way more vegetables. Naturally, my calories go down because I tend to be more full when I'm eating more vegetables, right? So there's a lot of different strategies that you can go about. But again, it's like I've learned myself, and that some of these things are easy tweaks that I can make. I can start buying fat-free Greek yogurt instead of full-fat Greek yogurt, and boom, my calories are lower than eating similar foods, right? So we do talk to our clients a lot throughout the whole process together, but especially people who are more intuitively eating or habit tracking. We talk to them a lot about, what does a healthy plate look like, right? Like we're centering our meals around a protein and a lot of colorful plants, real foods, fruits, vegetables, rice, things that look like the plant that they grow on. And we're focusing it around a protein. And that's kind of like, if most people did that, they would see physique change just doing that alone. So practicing building a healthy plate, knowing what nutrient dense foods look like, not just saying, I'm eating intuitively so I can have a milkshake because that's what my body wants right now. Like that is not healthy, sustainable, intuitive eating.
And it doesn't mean never, right? It doesn't mean
Right.
that's
Oh,
perfect
absolutely.
for your diet too, right?
It's just the majority of our plates are built around these proteins and real whole fibrous foods with micronutrients.
And people ask me all the time, like, how do you, even my husband's like, I don't understand how you eat this much and you just like stay the same. One, because I eat a lot of food, so my metabolism is never suffering in any way whatsoever. And two, I am so intentional about food volume, because I'm like you, Jess and I are foodies. We just eat a lot of food, more than probably most women. So I am,
and because we've strength trained a long
Mhm.
time to adapt our metabolisms to be able to handle this kind of food. I say that, I want to remind you guys, like I'm 5 feet tall. I used to be my leanest, I'll put in air quotes, when I was 102 pounds, and I would eat 1,000 calories a day. 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day was what my app was set at, right? I have built my metabolism up through years and years of consistent strength training, because I don't want you guys to listen to this and be like, well, you guys just must have great metabolisms. Like we're training our metabolisms to be effective so we can sustain while eating plenty.
Yes.
Sorry, continue.
Has absolutely been in a terrible place at points of my life too. But I do the same thing, right? And I know that I like to eat. I know that I am a boredom eater. Like I have to be mindful of those things. So for me, I'm like, okay, if I am feeling super snacky, my intuition isn't like, whatever, I'm snacking, I'm just going to eat whatever I want. It's like, okay, I really want to eat right now, but how can I be mindful about this, right? So I'm like, I'm going to go eat a ton of blueberries. I'm going to go eat some carrots and hummus. I'm going to go cut up 2 cucumbers, right? Need whole cucumbers. Like that's what I'm doing first. And then if I do have a certain craving for something that is just like not going away, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to fit this in on Friday night. And it's not because it's a cheat meal and I'm blowing everything out of the water. It's like, if I want sushi, maybe I do go get it that night, right? But like I'm mindful all week, and then I go have my big sushi and feel that craving. And then I'm not tempted to just do all of these other things and have all these cravings and indulge everywhere all the time, because I pick and choose when it's worth it to me and when it's not. And that's what we always talk about, right? Is most of the time.
Yeah. And choosing your worth it's is a concept I always talk to clients about, because it's like, it almost helps you make healthier choices in the now. if you're like, wait, I'm looking forward to this other thing that's way more worth it to me. Like my worth it's and your worth it's are going to be different from each other.
Yeah.
Am I craving drunken noodles right now, sitting at my desk doing check-ins with clients on a computer? Yeah. But guess what? Am I really going to fully enjoy every bite if I'm sitting here working? No, I would much rather that be takeout with my family on a Friday night while we're outside having a picnic or watching a movie and enjoying
I'm not
the
going to order
social
sushi
aspect.
rolls by myself. That's boring.
Right. And like, yeah, I could do that. And I have done that before, but do I fully enjoy it as much? Is it as worth it to me? No, it's not. I want to save up those more indulgent things for times I'm going to fully enjoy every single bite of it.
Yeah. Okay. I got us away from our building a healthy plate. So I want to circle back to that.
Okay.
So I feel like we talk a lot about, people talk about, I eat pretty healthy or I try to control my portions. And just like everything else that we talk about, I feel like that's nuanced, right? So like when we talk about portions, they typically say like 1 to 2 palms is serving for protein, 1 to 2 like cupped hands for carbs, 1 to 2 thumbs for fats. Vegetables, we're like unlimited.
As much as possible.
Yeah. Eat all of them. But those things are going to depend on you, your schedule, your lifestyle, how many meals are you eating? Because if I have some poor soul that's like, I eat 3 meals a day and I follow the hand portion general recommendations that are out there, it's probably not enough food for them, right? Like typically we're talking about eating 4 or 5 meals, good sized meals a day. And I think in diet world, a lot of women's brains tend to go towards low calorie or smaller meals or grazing throughout the day and feeling that's more beneficial. And then they're like, why don't I have these really bad cravings or I binge at night? And it's like literally solve this problem by eating a huge breakfast, eating a huge lunch. And I guarantee when you get home for dinner, you're not going to be half as hungry as you feel like you typically are when you walk.
And make them protein and fiber rich, and it will sustain you. You're going to feel better. You're going to have more energy. You're going to have more mental clarity, all the things.
Yeah.
But yeah, more, I guess, same
in fiber.
Regardless of if we're in a deficit or in a maintenance phase or actively trying to build muscle, we are building most of our meals out of nutrient-dense whole foods. And then we're also allowing for flexibility, but we have more of those foods when we're aiming to maintain or build muscle.
Yeah. So really, if you're building a plate, I always recommend with clients when we are eating on the go and trying to like make our best guess in certain situations or just shifting to intuitive eating, I always say build your plate around your protein if you can first. That's your priority to make sure you're getting protein in every meal, and then pick a carb that is you're getting fiber from, right? Like that's going to be beneficial for a lot of reasons. And then a healthy fat, if you can incorporate that in there. If you're having like salmon, for example, the healthy fats are going to be in the salmon, right? So it kind of depends. But then vegetables, like load them. Eat as many colors, as much volume truly as you want. Like there is not a limit in that because it's going to be extremely difficult for you to overeat. You're going to feel so much better. You're going to have more fiber for your gut and all of the things. And it's great for you. It's funny. My son actually came in the kitchen last night and he's like, I really want a banana. And I was like, so have a banana. And he's like, well, I had grapes earlier and I had blueberries and I had an apple at breakfast. And I was like, okay, like, great. We're adding another color to the mix. Right. And when we talk about that stuff. So I try to educate, and obviously this is a little bit of a sidebar, but I try to educate Mason in that regard because I never had that education growing up and I have it now. But so many women don't know that, like those simple things that we're talking about right now. So,
and I guess my approach when I'm recommending this to clients, I tend to say, build your meal around a protein, add some colorful plants, whatever those are, then add your starchy carb that looks like the plant it grew on, potatoes, rice, quinoa, whatever those things are. I tend to not go as much at a healthy fat because I think we have so many carbs and fats that are amply available. I'm going to get my fats for the day in sauces or in peanut butter or in a handful of nuts or in
it's like more general, like throughout the day that we're not
the day we want a combination
from processed things. Yeah. And
true.
Also,
that's
feel
true.
like women tend to choose low fat things or for
thinking that they need to. That's true.
Because if you're eating like I feel like it's so typical of women that would come to me before we work together. That's like their breakfast is usually coffee and a yogurt or coffee and oatmeal. Lunch is a salad with chicken. They might have a snack. And then they're always like, dinner is a carb and a vegetable and a protein. And I'm like,
and they're not getting healthy fats.
You maybe just had a very lean chicken breast that's minimal fat, glad you had like a ton of broccoli or whatever, and then maybe some rice, but like we need some healthy fats too, right?
True.
So that's really more. I agree, though. It's very easy to get your fats in throughout the day. So it doesn't mean you have to have this giant serving of avocado at every meal.
If you guys want to see what this might look like, a lot of times what I'll do during video check-ins with clients is I'll actually pull up Pinterest and I'll have them search Whole30 recipes, Mediterranean recipes, paleo recipes. This does not mean I want you to go out looking for boxes that say paleo-friendly snacks at the grocery store, but these three things, again, I don't follow a particular diet. I don't eliminate everything from my meals. These three diets, though, tend to build their meals around healthy proteins and healthy, whole, fibrous plants, right? So I like going there to get ideas. And then it's like, okay, cool. I can sauce it up however I want, or I can add this other thing on the side that maybe isn't that diet friendly. But look up Mediterranean and Whole30 recipes, and it'll help give you inspiration on really super flavorful foods too. It doesn't, we really like food. If you're good with like steak, broccoli, and a baked potato, great, good for you. But I like a lot of flavor and stuff. And I think that has helped me learn how to cook with more whole foods in ways that taste really good.
Yeah. So most adult women, most active adult women, there are some anomalies to this, should be eating more than 2,000 calories a day, 2,000 or more if you're active, right, is the keyword there, which you should be. So if you're an active adult female, and let's say meals are 400 to 500 calories as a ballpark, right? If you're eating 4 of those, 4 times 4, 400 times 4 is 1,600, 500 times 4 is 2, right? Like, so you're going to be somewhere in there. I would say one of the things that if you're trying to eat intuitively, if you're in a good place that you want to maintain, or if you're just focusing more on health, is that your meals are somewhere in the 400 to 600 calorie range, and you're aiming for somewhere around 2,000 calories or more. If obviously, like, it depends on each person. This is individual, right? We should be eating 4 to 5 good sized meals with everything we just explained in a day. Maybe that's 3 big meals and 2 healthy snacks or whatever it is, right? You can break it up, obviously, how it fits your life. But breakfast should not be a 200 calorie scoop of, or a 130 calorie scoop of protein, or a 200 calorie, whatever.
It needs to have protein in it. Yeah. Like
meal.
Often my breakfast is like a hearty egg sandwich with like leftover steak from the night before on 2 pieces of 12 grain bread.
Yeah,
with
like
cheese on it. Like
calories for breakfast.
I'm eating a lot, but but again, it has like, I'm eating it with steak from last night, or I'm doing salmon on a bagel with some avocado spread or something. So like, it's very nutrient dense stuff that I think a lot of people look at like, oh, bagel, how dare you eat that? But it's like, okay, but I'm also eating a ton of protein along with this. If I'm buying something that is packaged processed, I'm looking and trying to choose the more fiber rich, less sugar added option, stuff like that.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to mention on that too, when it comes to eating intuitively, building healthy plates and all of that, is I look at my schedule for the day, the night before, and I plan accordingly. So if I know I'm going to be stuck on calls back to back to back until 1 o'clock, I am eating a massive breakfast, and I'll usually have like a healthy snack ready to go for myself. That's super easy to just go and grab, or a meal that's easy to go microwave if I know I'll have 20 minutes to eat. Again, you want to be mindful with eating, but I'm always planning ahead for that. Or if today's the day and sushi's going down and I just can't let it go, I'm going to be a little bit smarter with how I approach the beginning of my day. Not always. Sometimes I just go with it, but I will be more focused, more intentional than normal about protein, veggies, all of those things, and front loading
Earlier.
so that I know my calorie dense indulgence is going to kind of just offset what I've already had for the day. And that's the same for going out for social things or weddings or anything.
Yeah, like when I used to work in the gym from 5 a.m. and I didn't get my first break until 1 or 1:30, I used to eat like a 800 or 900 calorie smoothie early in the morning at 4:30 a.m. And it's like, that sounds ridiculous, but I packed that thing with avocados, with nuts, with hemp hearts, with flax seeds, with chia seeds, with all this stuff just to add calories. Because 1, I'm hungry by 10 a.m. if I don't, but 2, it preloaded those calories for me to give me plenty of fuel when I do my workout, when I have a client cancel or whatever, right? So that I'm not then trying to make up for it all late at night.
Yeah. Okay. So this somehow turned into an eating intuitive episode, which is totally okay. But the next question is, we We talk a lot about Orange Theory, CrossFit, F45, cardio, and people ask us like why? Like why strength training over that, or why do we not like Orange Theory? There are several reasons. But the moral of the story, and obviously we'll elaborate on this, but the moral of the story is that if you go to F45 for the community and to just move your body in a healthy way, amazing. I absolutely love that for you. If you are going thinking I am burning a ton of calories, it's high intensity, I need to feel the sweat and the burn and see how many calories I burn on my Apple Watch because you want to lose weight, that's where we have a problem, because it's not only is it not the most effective, it can sometimes hinder you
Counterproductive.
significantly.
It is counterproductive metabolically to be doing that level of intensity all the time.
Yeah.
So again, we do not dislike these methods. We say it's ineffective if you're complaining to us about a stall in your physique progress, or if you're saying your goal is fat loss or metabolic improvements or muscle gain, and then you're complaining about not getting results, the method might be why you're not getting results. So again, we both share that both of us have been involved with CrossFit in the past. I kind of joined it as let me see what these people are about, because I have some clients who do it and I need to learn how to tweak their programming. But I've actually considered going back recently because I miss the community. I miss being around a bunch of women who are cheering each other on, lifting heavy. It's just a fun environment. I am not adding it back in for physique goals in any way. For cardio, heck yeah, because I don't enjoy cardio training, just for general health and heart health. But I'm not doing it for physique goals or to try to look more toned. I'm doing it because it's a fun workout and I don't tend to enjoy cardio on my own. So why not do it in a group setting that's fun?
Yeah. So when we have clients that come to us with a Burn Bootcamp membership or an F45 membership, we're not like, you're not going to that anymore. Cancel it immediately, right? I always tell them, we customize everything for you to get you the most effective result when it comes to your health, fitness, longevity, and weight loss, right? All of the things to change your physique in the way that you're telling me that you want to. That does not mean do exactly what I say or don't do it at all. Usually if a client's like, but I really love it. And I'm like, why do you love it? Right? Well, I love the burn. I love the sweat. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about that. Right. But if they're like, I really love the community and Saturday mornings are my favorite, I'm like, great. Would it be okay if we just do Thursday nights and Saturday mornings, and then we program your strength training otherwise, right? So it depends like what your motivation and reason is for going. Hell yeah, for a community. Sometimes I get bored and just go to yoga classes because I'm like, I don't know, I just want to get out of the house and go do something. Pilates. I get bored sometimes to go to Pilates because I like a challenge and I feel like I look like Shrek sometimes in there among the people that are like used to doing it. I'm just so not flexible. But I'm going for that, right? I'm going for a different kind of challenge for myself. It has absolutely nothing to do with physique whatsoever when I'm doing that. So we ask clients like, what is your reason for wanting to go? And that's it. It just
and what is your primary goal? And if you are complaining to me week in and week out about your slow physique progress, I'm going to say, okay, well, here's some options. Are you okay with slower physique progress and continuing to run 5 miles 3 times a week and just lift twice a week? Or could we flip flop that and maybe we do really effective lifts 4 days a week and then do 2 shorter runs so that your body isn't adapted to all this calorie burn, right? Like we're giving them options at every single step based on their specific goals, right?
Yeah.
So it's just having a very clear understanding of what's the adaptation that you want. Then we're going to recommend yay or nay to these different modalities.
Yeah, like if I've had clients come to me or women come to me that want to be clients and they're like, I want to train for a half marathon. Can you do that? I'm like, sure. We'll have a whole conversation about it. And then they're like, I really want to lose 20 pounds. And I'm like, okay, hold on.
Which goal? Which do you care about more? Yeah.
Right. So if you want to run a marathon, hell yes, love that for you. But if you want to run a marathon and then all of a sudden I find out a few weeks in that you think you have to run X number of miles a week to lose X number of pounds, right? Like we're going in the way wrong direction. And then I'm probably not the person for you. So it depends again, what your goal is and what the reason for it is. But if you're working out ever with the assumption that the more that you sweat, the more calories that you burn, the more that you feel a burn in your muscles, the more tired you are when you're done, and you think that's going to be equivalent to better, faster, more effective results in terms of your physique, you are very, very mistaken.
If you guys want to get in the weeds on this topic more, it's very like science-y, but Andrew Huberman interviews Andy Galpin. Andy Galpin is one of the best researchers when it comes to like different exercise modalities. He trains high level athletes and stuff. I highly recommend listening to that if you are curious about the different adaptations that come from different types of exercise. He goes through all of it. So like Jill and I clearly are biased towards building muscle and physique training because that's what most women come to us wanting to change. But he goes through the endurance adaptation, the flexibility adaptations, the muscle endurance adaptation. So anyway, if you want to check that out, it's Huberman with Andy Galpin.
Yep, I just looked it up. It's from around like February 2023.
They did a whole series, but
Yeah.
but it's basically like, hey, how to best program for your specific goals.
Mhm. Yeah, love that. Okay, so next question is, when do I know when and how often I should change up my programming? And honestly, like we change our clients' programs every like 4 to 6 weeks sometimes. This is strictly because clients get bored. This is not because we think that's the most effective way. I would love to do 8 to 12 week training blocks with clients. And that's not a hard and fast rule either. You don't really need to, I mean, you can change things up. And I think that's good to do. But if you are progressing in some way and utilizing progressive overload in some way, whatever the focus is, you realistically could follow the same order of movements and just change your sets, your reps, and that your rest periods, and have a completely different workout from 1 month to the next. So again, it depends on what's your goal, what's your reason for wanting to change your programming. And then obviously that variation too.
So typically, we want to hang somewhere anywhere between we're saying 4 and 6 weeks, but we tend to change up our clients' programming between 4 and 6 weeks because around that time, they start to get to a place where they're starting to feel really comfortable with those movement patterns. They've been able to add more reps. They've been able to add more weight in those exercises. And usually people are like, okay, I'm starting to get bored with this. Can we change it up? Right. So there's this balance between we want you to be consistent and be interested in your workouts and what's most effective. So I just had a conversation with one of our clients yesterday who's a newer client within her first couple months. I'm about to change up her programming again. And I told her, hey, for the first 4 or 5 months, it's kind of not boring, but it's kind of monotonous. Rather than doing a back squat, you're doing a front squat this next time. Rather than doing this type of deadlift, we're doing this type of deadlift. So it's similar movement patterns because, and then I might make it fun. We're going to probably change it up a little bit between months 6 and 8. But the reason I'm doing this is because I also really value you continuing to practice the skill that we're starting to build. I don't want you to then totally change it up and lose this skill set. We want to keep building on your squat so that it gets better and better over the course of a year. So a lot of our programming, we zoom out and we look at an entire year at a time. And then we are programming every 4 to 6 weeks within that year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I've even had clients come to me and I'm like, hey, this is what the next round of programming looks like. And they're like, I actually really like this month. Can I do it for a couple more weeks? I'm like, yes. That's great. Right. And typically that's coming from a client that is very intentional with their lifts. They're constantly sending form videos. They're progressing with their weight really well. And that's, it is okay to change your programming when you're bored to a degree, right? If you're changing it, if you're just following random workouts on YouTube, it's not okay. But
not effective.
It's okay. If you're following it for at least, we'll stick to
3 weeks. I would say 3 weeks
is fine.
Is my minimum personally.
Yeah. But honestly, if you're new, like I would rather you stick to those movements and continue to progress through them. But anyway, if you're changing it up to random and you're bored, just get used to the boredom and have a goal and be intentional with your lifts. And it's probably not going to feel as boring if you're not going through the motions. But
and when should you change it up? When you start to be excellent at the moves and you're having a tough time progressing anymore. That is it. That's how simple as it is. If you can keep going heavier, or if you're feeling way more stable than you used to feel on a single leg move, those are all signs of progression. When that progression starts to kind of plateau, that's when it's time to change it up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's such a good point, actually. And I was feeling that about a week or two ago in my lifts that I was like, God bless. I've been at these like same weights for a couple of weeks and I am trying so hard to push more and I am just gassed. Like I can't. And sometimes you have off days where maybe you can't do it. So I'm like continuing, tracking, pushing through. And I'm like, I got to change this up. Like this is just driving me crazy.
And then week 1 of that next phase is going to be really challenging again because it's new moves. Now I'm like, oh, I haven't done a split squat in so long. This is way harder than I remember.
Yep.
So for the next 5-6 weeks, I'm going to be building on these things. So that is our simple answer there. Okay, the next question. How do I know if I am lifting heavy enough? What weights should I start with? If you are not part of our Facebook group, we do free training videos. And yesterday, my Workout Wednesday topic was actually all about this question. I always say, if you are following good programming, allow the rep range to dictate how heavy you go. So what does this mean? If my programming tells you to lift between 8 and 10 reps and you're going and you get to 10 and you're like, sweet, I hit 10, I'm done, but you could have gotten 11, 12, 13, you're going too light. If you are pushing with every little ounce of what you have in you and you only get to 6 and the rep range is 8 to 10, you need to drop the weight a little bit lighter to use that rep range as your guide. Again, that's how I tend to train. I know some people will use a perceived rating of physical exertion. Like if my perceived effort is an 8 out of 10, great. We want to be somewhere in that 8 to 9 out of 10 range in terms of perceived effort. The reason I use my rep range to dictate it is because I have trained a lot of women in person who think that what they are capable of is actually way less than what it is. So they think, yeah, that's the hardest I can do. And I say, okay, well, let's just keep going for fun. And they're able to crank out 10 more reps and they're like, wait, that's crazy. I thought that was my last one. So unless you've really tested yourself to failure, you're not going to know what your max effort looks like. So how do you know if you're lifting heavy enough if you physically can't get 1 or 2 more reps based on the rep range that your program is that you're following?
And not like you're going to fall on the floor, like maintaining good form, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's such a good point. I just had a client call yesterday about this, and I was walking her through actually her like form movements and things with her current programming because she's a new client, and all of her workouts, all of her movements were, if it was 10 to 12 reps, she was doing 12 reps. If it was 8 to 10, she was doing 10. And it was just straight down across the board doing the max reps on everything. I'm like, listen, this is great. We also did this last week and it was at the same weight. So like, we got to have
How do I know that you're not lifting heavy enough? If every single set is the exact same. Like if I will pull up my own workout log and show my clients during our check-ins and say, look at my dips last week. I did 6, 7, 4. Because I physically could not get another one, right? Every single set is different because I'm pushing every rep and every set to almost physical failure. And then the second part of that question was, what weights should I start with? Your body is very susceptible to change if it's a new stimulus. So I don't want to scare you guys and think, go as heavy as you possibly can. If you're just starting with exercise, any new stressor is going to elicit change, right? The idea is to compete with yourself and progress over time. That progression might look like getting deeper in a movement. It might not always be going heavier, but over the course of time, you should be able to get heavier and or add more reps. Now, every muscle group is different. So when people just say, well, what weight should I start with for this or for that? That is so individual. I can't just throw out a number. But in general, you're going to be able to lift far more on your large muscle groups, your hamstrings, your quads, your butt, your chest, your back, versus like little accessory movements, your tricep kickbacks, your rear delt flies. Like you're never going to be able to lift that heavy on those as you are on those big movements. So especially push yourself on things like squats, hinges, lunges, step ups, bench presses, rows, lat pull downs. Those are the things that we want to super be pushing on.
Yeah, that's a good point about like, I feel like there's memes that go around about that, about like you've been trying to increase your lateral raise weights for like 10 years. But I am someone that loves a challenge. And when I feel stagnant, I will, like if I'm trying to increase on like a 10 to 12 rep range and I feel stuck, I will actually drop to like 6 rep range and like, let me just see how much I can do comfortably, right? And I'll challenge myself in different ways, which is what some of the variation in your programming should be, right? It's not just different movements, it's different rep ranges, it's different paces, it's different rest periods. So different ways to challenge yourself. But if you're in your first couple of years of lifting, it should just be focusing on getting to almost failure, having really killer form, and lifting heavier.
And build over time. Yep.
What do we got next?
Best home gym equipment recommendations.
We were just talking about it. So typically when a client comes to us, And it depends on where they're starting as like in their fitness journey and what their experience level is. But we typically have clients start in a home program if they're like starting from scratch. A couple sets of dumbbells, and we say a couple because you're probably going to want some heavier ones for lower body versus upper body. Resistance bands with handles are lovely. Loop bands are great. A Swiss ball is great, which is that big squishy ball, because you can use that to just do a lot of different movements that will be helpful instead of just using like the floor or standing. A bench, specifically an adjustable bench, is awesome to have because that takes everything up to the next level. But it really just depends, again, on what you're starting with. If you're like, okay, I can start with a few things, that's where I would start. But clients typically will add in adjustable dumbbells that go up to like 50 or 60 pounds. And it's like, okay, it's a bit more of an investment, but now you don't have to buy dumbbells every week or whatever, and you have a lot of room to grow. And then they progress to like, I think I'm going to get a squat rack. And then I'll have a client be like, I think I want to get cables. Now I want a Smith machine. So it depends, right? It depends, like, what do you have room for? What's your starting point? What do you already have? You can have a really effective dumbbell only program. Is it better to have more variety and more access to equipment? Sure. Like, it's going to open up a lot of different doors and give you that variety. It can make your programming more effective, right? But it just kind of depends on where you're at.
If somebody said, okay, what should I get? Like, this is an investment. I know it's an investment. My bare minimum would be a dumbbell rack or a set of adjustable dumbbells up to 50 pounds and a set of bands with handles, because I think a lot of times it's tough to replicate like pull type movements if you don't have something from high that you can pull down with. And I think bands are really easy for that. So
yes,
my thing would be adjustable dumbbells and a set of bands with handles. If you had, I have all the money in the world and I want a perfect home gym, I still wouldn't even recommend needing equipment like leg presses or leg curls or anything like that. I would get, and this is what I have in my own home gym. I have dumbbells that go up to 50 pounds. I have resistance bands, and then I have a squat rack that does have a cable attachment on it. So I can do cable stuff, but I have a squat rack with a barbell and plates, and that is it. Like, I can do very effective workouts with those things.
Yeah, no, I agree. Same. My home gym is squat rack, 2 sets of adjustable dumbbells, 2 benches. I mean, my husband uses it too. We do have cables, and then we have lots of bands, Swiss ball, pretty much everything.
Same with the Swiss ball. I like that because you can do a lot of hamstring curl stuff with the Swiss ball. You can also utilize, if you don't have an adjustable bench. I have one client, she uses her Swiss ball as her bench now. You can't go as heavy because you're not as stable as you are on a bench, but it's a great alternative if that's what you're working with.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, like, most people don't have room to just go buy a bunch of machines. So that's going to be your best bet. But yeah, if you're like, bare bones, where do I start? Resistance bands with handles and dumbbells. I totally agree. That's the best place to start. And then your next purchase, if you have enough variety in terms of going heavier, a bench, specifically an adjustable one. And there's so many options on Amazon that are pretty affordable. That would be
a bench and a squat rack. Yeah, I would put a bench with the dumbbells and the resistance bands if you can, an adjustable bench.
Yeah. That's what we prefer clients to have, but we definitely work around it. That's totally what I would recommend too. And then when it comes to home workouts and everything we just talked about, it kind of ties into this last question for this episode is, can I actually see physique progress working out at home? And the answer is yes, absolutely. However, it depends on how you're progressing. If you're challenging yourself, are you tracking your progress? A lot of times it looks like circuit or Beachbody workouts. And it's not that you can't see change with that. Like, people will start them and be like, oh, I lost, X number of pounds, or I felt good, or whatever. What your intention is. And sometimes I feel like this, I'm not like coming at anyone, and this isn't across the board blanket statement, but a lot of times I feel like when women are doing those types of workouts, they're doing it going through the motions of like checking a box, and they're not actually training with intention. So as long as you're training with intention with your equipment that you have access to, and you're challenging yourself in whatever way that you can, if it's heavier, that's ideal. If it's tempo and changing things up in that regard, that's okay. Sometimes your workouts are going to have to be higher intensity at home as a form of variation if you are a little bit more limited on equipment. It can't just be all the time because your body's going to adapt to it.
One of our clients was personally triggered by a post that you did, Jill. And it was like something about your progression in your fitness. Like when I started seeing results was when I moved away from these things. And one of them was like doing home workouts. And again, we're picturing things like Beachbody, that's just body weight for high intensity, stuff like that. But it was funny because she reached out and was like, hey, I saw this post Jill did. Like I have 2 tiny kids at home. Like it's very hard for me to get to the gym. This is somebody I used to train in person in the gym. So she enjoys a gym workout. She said, what can I do to improve my results? Because I know my results are slower because I can't lift as heavy and I know I'm maxed out with weight. So it's fun because now she's sending me videos every single week working on depth. We are actively working on tempo training. We're working on feeling her muscles differently at the bottom of every single rep so that she's progressing in different ways. We're working on unilateral movements. So absolutely, you can see good results, but you have to still be pushing yourself to progress in some way. If you're not, there's not going to be that signal, that stressor signal for your body to adapt. So you just have to be more strategic with it if that is your option and you don't have as many weights to play with.
I gotta say, I'm not mad that my post triggered someone to amp their home training.
It's fun. No, it's funny because she now has been tagging us on Instagram every time she finishes a workout and hits a new PR. And her PR, she's like, she'll text me and be like, my PR was only 1 extra rep. But I'm like, that's okay. It was 1 extra rep. Like, it's something, right?
And that's the point is I think people sometimes are doing it to check a box. Now, if it's like a release and it's part of your routine, like that's cool. But again, when it comes to physique change, and if you're specifically looking to see results and continue to progress, doing the same thing over and over, you're going to reach a certain threshold where it's not going to it's not going to elicit any change anymore, right? You have to do something different. And that doesn't mean you have to trick your muscles or this weird shit that sometimes goes out there. It's just that your body has adapted and become more efficient at that activity. And now you have to challenge it, right? And
you have to progress in some way. That's it. Progress over time. It doesn't mean you need to even change the workout, but you need to progress how you're stressing those muscles during that workout.
Cool. Well, that's
our Q&A.
Fun questions. I liked these questions today. So that is all for today's Q&A. Feel free to send us questions anytime on social media, on Instagram. We're both always in our messages with gals. The questions that we have here, like I said, are just ones that we get pretty typically from clients and not clients. But you can always message us if you have questions about this. If you have questions about your training, questions about intuitive eating, whatever it is that we talked about today, again, also feel free to message us anytime. But that is all for this episode, and see you guys next time.
Bye.